Hi, it's May 18th, 10:36 p.m., and I am getting ready for bed, but I had to come here and do my entry for the day because we are being consistent. Anyway, um today I've started taking notes because sometimes these ideas come to me during the day and then I forget them. So I've just been writing like one-liners to remind myself of what I was going to speak. So today I'm going to talk about how to find your home, especially if you are someone like me who felt like they never belonged anywhere, and how to find your home. Okay. I think for a very, very long time, one of the things that I had to go through was I never felt like I belonged, you know? Growing up, I had a lot of friends. Right now, I have a lot of friends. Um, I was popular ish in school. Um, but I never felt like I belonged. And it's this feeling, right, that we sit with. And it is just like you can have like so many people around you, but you can still feel like you don't belong, you know? And this has been a consistent feeling for me for many, many years, for as long as I can remember, for as long as I can, um, for as long as I have had the ability to form complex thoughts and speak and, just form opinions. I think I have felt this way. I never felt like I belonged. Um, and then it got worse because the only one time I feel like I remember fully feeling like I belonged was when I was in junior college. Because I was born and raised in India, if you're new here. Um, and I moved to the States when I was 18 for college. So I code switch. I have an accent, but I code switch. Anyway, but that's a different topic. But my point is, I remember the only time I really felt like I belonged was in junior college, which is like 11th and 12th grade when I was in India. And it's when I had this friend group, and we used to do so many things together, and it was just very close knit. Um, but then I moved here, and then I kind of lost touch with those friends. And I feel like I've romanticized this idea of moving to the US a lot in my head, because I've always wanted to live in New York, and that's still a dream of mine. But I thought it was gonna be easy. And as a 27-year-old looking back on the 18-year-old naive baby me, I would just like to say, girl, you have no idea how hard it is, how hard it's gonna be. You will lose yourself, and you'll think you found yourself, but then you'll lose yourself again. Then you'll find yourself, but then you'll also lose yourself again. And then you'll almost find yourself, but then you'll lose yourself again. And it's just like this constant journey, you know? But I digress. Um, so when I moved here, I it was very hard, you know. I had to navigate. I tell my mom this all the time and she agrees. I pretty much raised myself. I raised myself. And I had to learn everything in my late teens and early adulthood to now by myself. I had to navigate it all by myself. Don't get me wrong, my parents are extremely supportive. I'm very close to my parents. They've taught me a lot, but there's a difference between physically being with your family and, being in another country and visiting your family like once a year. You can only do so much parenting in 3 months. But um in that time that I've been here, this whole time, I never felt like I belonged. I think that feeling just got more intense, you know? Just kept getting more and more intense. It just started feeling like I didn't have a home. And I think this is a very common experience, I would say specifically with international students, especially when they've been in another country for as long as I've been. I've been in this country for almost 10 years next year, so a long ass time. This experience is that you don't truly feel like you belong anywhere because I'm too Indian for America, and I'm too American for India. And it's like when I'm in India, I miss parts of the US and my life here, and when I'm in the US, I miss parts of my life in India, and it's just I don't know if it ever changes, you know? That's the best way I can explain it. I don't know. I'm the only people who I feel like could relate to me are other international students, or people who've moved away from their home. But this sense of belonging and having no home just like got worse for me, you know, as I navigated through my time here. But the way I have now slowly started finding or feeling like I do belong is by finding that within myself, you know? The only reason why I used to feel like I didn't belong was because I kept abandoning myself in every single situation I was in. The only reason I felt like I belonged in that friend group in college, in junior college, was because I can tell you for a fact right now, I was completely 100% authentically myself. And I did not abandon myself for anybody. No one. And that's exactly why I felt like I belonged. But a lot of people don't get this, or they take time to understand this. It took me 10 years to get to this point. Well, because I was 17 when I had that friend group, but also I would say longer. I would say 27 years or 20 years. Let's say 7. Okay, so 20 years, give or take. It took me to get here. And I would still say that's comparatively early in my life that I've realized this, you know? There's people who don't realize this until they're in their late 60s or 50s, and that's completely fine. I'm not like trying to compare because everyone has different timelines, but I feel grateful that I'm able to realize this so soon, you know? That the only reason I felt like I didn't belong was because I abandoned myself. And when I say I abandoned myself, I mean I abandoned my values, I abandoned who I stood for, I abandoned my boundaries, I abandoned who I was as a person. And people pleasing does that to you. The only reason we people please as humans is because we want to gain approval. And as humans, like I said in one of my videos, we need acceptance, approval, belonging, and love, right? These are core needs that we need to survive. So going against somebody feels almost unnatural. But that, paradoxically, is also how you are your most authentic self. There is a courage that comes with audaciously showing up as yourself, and that is to have the courage to be disliked. That's a good book. You should read that. But having the courage to be disliked is how you can truly be yourself, you know? You have to consciously make a decision today that if you really are someone who, I don't know, likes to wear clown outfits, but that's who you are. That's what makes you, you know? You have to consciously make that choice to wear that outfit every single day, regardless of what people think or say about you. Because all you're doing is being yourself. And that can only be achieved when you have a very secure and stable sense of belonging within yourself. So, if you're feeling like you don't belong, or if you've felt like you haven't belonged anywhere, I see you, I applaud you, but it doesn't have to be that way anymore. You are allowed to come back to yourself. Who were you as a kid? What did you like? What did you do when no one was watching? That's how I started. That's how I started reconnecting with myself. For me, it was always music, music, listening to music, singing, making up scenarios in my head, talking to myself, all these things that now as an adult I thought made me crazy were just my inner child or baby me within me telling me to look at her again, like, hey, I'm here, I still exist, come back to me. We have to find a way for our child self and the adult self to coexist, and only then can we truly achieve this sense of belonging. As the adult, you can make mature decisions, but as a child, you don't have to take things seriously all the time. Life is serious, yes. I don't think so. I'm just saying that for the sake of this, but there's always an undertone of playfulness to it, And the more you become in touch with yourself or spiritual, the more you realize that it really isn't that serious. People really are very serious these days, and it really is not that serious. I will leave you with a very amazing quote by Mr. Charlie Chaplin, funny man, and also I share the same day a birthday with him. So he said, "Life is a tragedy when you look at it close up, but when you zoom out, it is a comedy." So yeah, disco out. We'll see you tomorrow.